All right, it's time for draft class. Joining me today from No Ceilings, Tyler Rucker. Tyler, how are you today, man?
Kevin, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk some hoops with you.
I'm excited to have you on as well. I mean, you guys do amazing work at No Ceilings, covering the draft literally every single day with your awesome, enthusiastic, and educational coverage as well. So I want to talk with you about some college players and also do a little NBA rookie check-in later on. I want to start off with a lottery lesson, an update on Nate Ament out of Tennessee, because it feels like every time we talk about Ament on the podcast, it's never good. And I think with Ament at this point, there's no reason that it is good. It's still not good with Nate Ament, Tyler. What's behind the challenges he's faced this year with Tennessee, and has there been any signs of life that you've seen as of late?
Yeah, I think it was tough coming into the year with Nate because Kevin, as good as anyone, like there's always just some name that's hyped as being one of the top guys in each draft class that might just struggle a little bit out of the gate and fail to live up to preseason expectations. And with Nate, there's a lot of fun tools on paper. A 6'10", 200 plus pound, forward that is billed as a floor spacer. But just this year at Tennessee, you see a lot of struggles when it comes to creating space, finishing a lot. He is getting to the free throw line a lot, which is a good sign, but the outside shot just hasn't been there. So it's kind of tough when you're being sold on the idea of someone of being like, hey, he's going to be this gigantic floor spacer. And, he's been flirting around 25, 30% all year from deep. So I think with Nate, you're starting to see a little bit of confidence develop right now, but there's still a lot of questions right now of like, hey, where's this range going to be when it comes to, the draft, and where do scouts feel comfortable with him?
I mean, and ultimately this year, he's also still not shooting well at the rim. He's shooting 45% at the rim in the half court. And for a guy his size, that needs to further improve. He's only 42% for that matter on just layups in the half court. And so if he's not shooting the ball well, and if he's not creating enough off the dribble, and if he's not finishing when he is at the basket, what do you actually have with Nate Ament? And like, I think you can squint and see the glimmers of what you hope he can be. But to me, like, it's still, I feel even more certain now talking about him in the middle of January than I did, I think, last time on the show, early December. He's got to go back to school. Like, why would he declare in this year's draft class?
Yeah, it's kind of the same feeling, I think, when you watch the tape and you kind of look at where he started the year with some buzz around the draft scouting world, and now where he's at. I think you just kind of get to a point where you're like, well, why would he declare this year? Why wouldn't he go back and further, fill out his frame? There's reports that he gained around 20 pounds since getting onto campus, which is great, but you're still, as you mentioned, like you're still seeing he's struggling as a finisher. He's really struggling to put the ball in the basket at 6'10", which is a big enough red flag as it is. And then the outside shooting isn't there. So it's like, well, how is this going to contribute to immediate success at the next level when guys are bigger, guys are tougher? So I'm right there too. I see a guy that could do wonders if he just is like, hey, let me get another year under my belt, really work on my frame and my game, get a little bit quicker. I think it could do wonders, especially next year's class is not as deep as this one. So he could really do some good for him to go back and, maybe he's going to be a top 5 pick next year. We'll see.
I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, I still think there's an opportunity for him next year if he's able to, as you said, fill out, improve his game. He can just be one of those year 2 guys. I mean, it's just the reality of it. Like, not everybody has to be a one and done. He can still make some money through NIL next year at Tennessee and set himself up for better success in the NBA. So I'm hopeful there. And I would anticipate another guy that people thought could potentially be in the lottery, Alijah Arenas. Obviously this offseason, he was in a serious car accident. He suffered a torn meniscus as well over the offseason in July. He was put into a coma at one point. Alijah Arenas, son of Gilbert Arenas. He did make his college debut on Wednesday against Northwestern. It was not a great game statistically for him. 3 for 15 in the game, only 2 for 6 from the free throw line. He finished with 8 points in the game. What did you see from this game, Tyler? And I think really more importantly, what are you going to be looking for in his games to come this season?
Yeah, it's just unbelievable story for, kind of what Elijah's dealt with and already being back on the basketball court just speaks to, his determination and everything. So most importantly, it's awesome to see him back out there. But, it's awesome, but it was also like, hey, let's be realistic about his first couple games back. He's going to be a little rusty. And I saw that last night. You see the explosiveness. He's 6'6", 5-star recruit, really talented scorer. Like obviously his old man was. You can see the explosiveness, the handles, and everything. But I think last night when you're watching the tape, you just kind of see a couple plays where you're like, all right, the timing's just got to come back a little bit. He's like a half step a little early or anxious on some of his drives. Look, it's an ugly box score. I think, as you said, he's 3 for 15, but you see a couple shots, you're like, all right, a couple of those bounce a different way, and we might look at something and be like, this wasn't too bad. But with Alijah, he's this microwave scorer that I think scouts are still really excited about for as a wild card this year. But it's one of those things where like I think he's got a lot of gifts as a playmaker, and if he could just figure out that balance to let the offense kind of open up with his scoring, I think that's where he could really start cooking. But last night he looked a little over anxious or excited sometimes when he's trying to create for himself, but looks like he was playing his more speed when it was setting up other teammates. So just letting the game slow down for a bit, and I think that's what's going to happen in the first couple of games. Just like, hey, let's just see when he gets his feet wet, let's see how he adjusts.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. I think with a guy like him, you're going to be patient, especially with the way 2025 went for him. It would be outrageous to be like, Alijah Arenas looks like a boss, only 3 for 15. He's not. It's like, relax. Nobody's saying that. I mean, I think with Arenas, you give him time and hopefully he's able to have some big games for USC by the end of the year. And it's not a lot of turnaround time, though. I mean, coming back in the middle of January, Tyler, it wouldn't shock me at all if it's just more struggles. And he's a guy where it's very clearly he should go back to school. It'd almost be kind of a shocker if he starts having big games. I think it would be pretty telling about him if he starts having big games considering everything he went through.
Yeah, I'm never ever rooting for guys to just be like they got to go back automatically. But I'm with you. It's like for everything he went through, you would think just today's day and age with the NIL, it's like it's so much good to just go back and be patient and improve on your game. But he's an absolute wild card in this class now. That is a class that is a lot of depth, a lot of excitement, and all of a sudden we inject Alijah Arenas in the mold, and you get a 6'6" bucket getter. So I think once he gets his feet wet, it's all of a sudden we're gonna look up and be like, "Whoa, he had a big night tonight." It's just, can he consistently have those? And it's tough, as you said, Kevin. It's tough, kind of coming back, middle of January, end of January, and being like, "All right, you got a limited amount of time to make some noise." But I still think he's drawn enough attention before this year that scouts just might still be intrigued. But we'll see. There's always some curveballs when it comes to the withdrawal deadline, and maybe Elijah's going to be in the mix. We never know.
Yep, you never do know there. Let's move on to our weekly movers. So where we talk about players, their stock is up, stock is down. Who's a guy that's inching up your board in recent weeks, Tyler?
For me, it's been Illinois freshman Keaton Wagler, who's one of these players that's kind of every year I think we get a name that's all of a sudden just skyrocketing up boards. A couple of years ago we had Bub Carrington, where it was like, who's this guy coming out of nowhere? And Wagler's kind of taking that crown right now. He's 6'6", he's shifty, good feel for the game, plays at his speed, and it's going to be interesting. Illinois just had Kylan Boswell is going to be out for some time, so they need someone to kind of take over the reins and run the show. And I think Wagler is going to be the name that if he could really put forth some solid stretches, which he's been doing this year, I think that's going to only excite scouts more. So he's still 18 years old. He's young. And this is a guy, I think he had like one or two like major offers. I think Minnesota might have been the only other school that offered him. So was not expecting this type of year from him, but he's been tremendous. Just a smart player this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very fun player. I was watching his game against Rutgers a couple weeks back or earlier this month, and it's like not just like he's 6'6", he's not just a shooter, but the creation ability he shows as well. He had like this play where he's kind of like backing down from the 3-point line, turned his back and started backing into the rim, and just the ability to take shots off the dribble, some of the creativity, the quirkiness to his game as well. Where is he on your board? Is he a lottery guy? Has he shown enough already, or is he more like a late first in your opinion?
Yeah, I have him in my lottery right now. It's one of those things where each time I watch him, I'm like, man, I know NBA teams love positional versatility with that size, and he plays poised. He plays like he's been in college for a couple of years, and I think the floor spacing, the playmaking, he doesn't rush the issue too much when it comes to trying to create. If it's not there, he's like, all right, let's move the ball, let's
Mhm.
swing. He just seems like a player that also NBA teams are going to be like, oh man, this is what we want. Looks like a guy that could play a really long time. Offensively, and I'm saying offensively, he reminds me of Derek White. The defense is not there, but there's just a lot of parts of his
I like
game where
that
you're like,
comp.
man, yeah,
Uh,
it's just
that's pretty
one
good
of those vibes.
because
I wish the
White in
defense
San
was
Antonio,
there.
White in San Antonio did some of that stuff. He played more. I mean, this year in Boston, White's role is up, but like in San Antonio, he ran a lot heavier dose of pick and roll, and he could do
Right,
some
right.
things that plug and play into different spots on the floor, and that's what I mean with him. It's like he can go back to the basket sometimes. Like he's got a very quirky game. He's not just a traditional 3-and-D 6'6" guy. His handle adds a new element.
Yeah, and look, he's in the you brought up the pick and roll with White in San Antonio. Wagler's in the 94th percentile with synergy when it comes to pick and roll, situations. So he's smart. He plays his speed, and he's also just someone that doesn't force the issue a ton. The athleticism isn't there, but he makes up for it a lot when it comes to like, all right, I don't need to try to force this. Let's just keep it moving and just seems like a plug and play type of guy that you put in alongside what you got already as a team, and you're like, okay, this one's going to be good for a long time. So Wagler's one that I think has slowly kept creeping up, and then all of a sudden he's putting together these stretches where you're like, oh man, like how high can we get? So he's going to be a fun one looking forward.
What's a college game that you're looking forward to watching over these next couple of days or this next week from a scouting perspective?
Oh man, there's so many good ones coming up. Houston, Texas Tech is going to be a big one, and then
It's like asking somebody what's your favorite song. It's like, oh, how am I supposed to choose just one? It's just too
yeah,
many.
exactly. It's just that time of the year, and I think it's just the buzz with this draft class, and there's so much just talent near the top, even in the lottery, and then there's depth. So I think every game now, you're like, goodness, here we go. But Houston, Texas Tech's going to be a fun one. Kingston Fleming's going against Christian Anderson, who's been red hot
It's
for the
awesome.
Red Raiders.
So good.
And then next week we get BYU at Arizona, or excuse me, Arizona at BYU. So AJ DeBansa, and then down the road, Kevin, I'm eyeing the Darren Peterson, AJ DeBansa, which is next Saturday. So hopefully Darren's healthy. That's what I've been saying all year. But there's a lot of fun matchups coming up. So it's going to be a fun time of the cycle to get caught up if you haven't, if you're an NBA fan.
100%. I mean, I think that now is the time to really start tuning in. No, I mean, it's been fun covering the draft since November. Since week one, we've been doing a weekly draft class segment, and I feel like people have really enjoyed the draft coverage early on because, and you know this with No Ceilings, Tyler, especially with a good quality draft class. Interest is always up. I think there's so many fans. It's always the idea of what could be, what's entering the league. How could this guy help our team? And there's a lot this year. I mean, you mentioned Kingston Flemings, who has worked himself into potentially that top 5 conversation. I am curious. You mentioned Anderson on Texas Tech, and of course Kingston Flemings on Houston. What's your thought on the role of like some of these smaller guards in the NBA nowadays? I mean, we talked about this a bit last week with my guest, but I am curious to ask you about that same topic as well, because this is a very guard heavy draft class. So what are your thoughts on that and the need for guards in the NBA, the place for small guards?
I think it's kind of been something I've been waiting to see if it almost goes back to the previous years where it was like, okay, well, teams now are like, hey, we need more guards. Let's just invest in, maybe the undersized guys. Because we just seen recent draft history. It doesn't happen often. Teams are always wanting size. They're wanting these plus size ball handlers, but this draft class is stacked with what's your flavor of preference when it comes to like going to an ice cream shop. It's like you can find it when it comes to guards in this class. So I think
That's
this
so
year's
true.
gonna it's just like it's any like pick your poison this year. You can find whatever you're looking for, but it's this, Kevin, like the NBA is a copycat league, and I thought that finals with the Pacers and the Thunder was a big ring in the hey. you need to get depth now. You need to be like able to run out different lineups and variations. So I think there's going to be teams looking at me like, let's just add another guard. Let's get some depth. Let's get some variety because injuries happen throughout the year, or guys can play alongside. So I think this is a fantastic class to just keep building. And you know, Kingston Flemings has been great. Christian Anderson's on fire right now. So you're getting these guys that are starting to really come into their own as playmakers, as scorers, and then all of a sudden you look at this class and you're like, okay, there's like 4 or 5 other ones of those. Like, so it's a fun year to look at that, and I think it's going to be really interesting from a roster construction, like building perspective. I think some of these teams might be like, we have a couple guards, but let's get another because best player on our board and depth is more important than ever right now in the league.
Well, I think, you know, obviously there's difficulties with small guards adjusting to the NBA, but they can still make a positive impact. And I thought for an NBA rookie check-in here earlier in the week, the Rockets had a big win against the San Antonio Spurs, and Reed Sheppard, he looked like the college version of himself in that game. He had 21 points, 4 of 10 from the field, and he had an awesome block on the corner against Champagny where he just blocked the three-pointer just like he did in college many, many times. Clutch blocks late in games on three-pointers, on jump shots. This little guy that with his ability and his feel as a shot blocker on top of the playmaking and the shooting and the scoring, Sheppard is looking like the right pick for Houston. I had him number 1 on my board. We'll see in time if that was the right choice or not, but I just think I feel very vindicated with my opinion of Reed Sheppard with the way he's played as of late this year. What have you seen from Reed, Tyler?
It's starting to look like things are slowing down, and this is looking like the Reed Sheppard from Kentucky. You know, you asked about small guards. I think you got to be able to shoot it. So with Reed, it wasn't like, hey, he's never going to figure it out, because I was like, he could shoot it, but I think he's just got to figure out his style and get to his spots and not rush it too much. So I'm the most patient with young guards in the NBA because I understand how hard it is with that, you know, learning curve. But all of a sudden, when it looks like the game's slower, you're like, uh-oh, here we go. And I think you're starting to see that with Reed. It's like, well, he could shoot it, but now he's figuring out the ways to get to his shot and not be forcing it or anything. Because I still remember beginning of the year, everyone was freaking out about the OKC game to start out. And I was like, give him some time. It's a tough start to the year for an inexperienced guard. But, you know, looking at some of these last games he's been playing, like I'm like, oh, there's the Kentucky. There's the prospect Reed Sheppard that we've been waiting to see. So I still think it was a great pick from Houston, and I think it's going to.
Is that a real photo on screen? You see that photo? He just looks
come
ripped.
on.
Is that a real picture? It looks incredible.
Photoshopped.
There's no way that's a real picture. It looks like he literally just lifted. There's no way that's real.
But it's just, there's no way.
Right? Do you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree.
There's no chance.
That has to be post-edited. I knew he was stocky at Kentucky, but no way. Okay, that's why he's looked good, Kevin, because he just, you know, gained 20 pounds of muscle. But look, I think this is right what you want to see if you're a Rockets fan. Like, Reed's right on schedule. He's building some confidence, and things are slowing down. So now I can't get that photo out of my head. That's ridiculous.
Was that real?
Are we being punked?
Oh my god! I don't know. For the audio listeners not watching us on YouTube, just it looks like Reed is just like a bodybuilder in this photo. The neck even the neck just it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Reed Sheppard.
Goodness, it looks like he's trying to be Thor.
Oh my god, that might be real. I think it's real.
It's scary if it's real. See, this is the problem. Now I'm gonna, after the pod, go look up, like, is Reed Sheppard just like gaining all this muscle? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like also with AI nowadays, you don't know what's real or what's not, because it's so convincing at this point. Remember a few years ago with the Will Smith spaghetti thing, and it's like, oh yeah, this is some BS. It's never gonna be anything. And nowadays, it's like, well, type in Will Smith eating spaghetti and you get a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti, except it's not real.
It's so ridiculous. It's true, because every time I'm looking at a photo these days, I'm like, Is it real? That's the first thing you're saying. Real? Fake?
That's a big problem. It's a big problem. I saw a Wob, who obviously very popular on NBA Twitter. He posted saying like, I haven't seen a Sora video in the last couple of weeks on Instagram Reels, and I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know? You
how
might
do you
have.
know?
You just didn't know it.
It's a good point, though.
Right?
But yeah, how do you know, Bo?
How do you know? How do you know? I don't know. It's very, very challenging nowadays. But I do think like with all the fake stuff out there, people are going to seek out real content with real personalities. I think that's always going to have an edge, and ultimately, that's one of the things people love about No Ceilings. I mean, you guys have developed a group of passionate people who love the draft and love talking about the draft. All very likable people. Where'd the idea come from, Tyler? Like, what was the motivation behind putting together No Ceilings?
Yeah, it's just kind of we were all working the draft grind solo, and talked to Corey Tolba one off season. I think after summer league, I got this crazy idea about hey, I want to start a draft website and make a run at making it something legit that we can shed light on not just the guys that are going top 10, but guys that are going undrafted. Give them some spotlight. Like every prospect deserves full attention. So brought it to Corey Tolba, like terrified he was going to say no and be like, come on, man, that's crazy. And he was like, I'm all in, let's do it. And Albert Gim was with them. And then all of a sudden it's blossomed to this team of really hard workers and guys that, are really passionate and care about their grind and care about their work. So it's been awesome to connect with the, NBA world and people like yourself, Kevin. It's been great for the support over the years. So we appreciate it as always.
I mean, Tyler, you guys do amazing work. Everybody go check out No Ceilings NBA and Tyler Rucker as well with your podcast and all your content. You're always posting on social media and sharing your insights on the draft. Thank you so much for sharing some of those today on the show, Tyler.
Thanks for having me, Kev. Appreciate it.